President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong Un began their second summit today in Vietnam. The two exchanged pleasantries before having dinner together. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney were also there. The U.S. is seeking full denuclearization of North Korea, which it asked for at last year's summit. North Korea wants the U.S. to lift sanctions and possibly remove troops from the Korean peninsula. In brief comments today, the president praised the economic potential of North Korea.
As I've said many times, and I say it to the press, I say it to anybody that wants to listen, I think that your country has tremendous economic potential, unbelievable, unlimited. And I think that you will have a tremendous future with your country, a great leader. And I look forward to watching it happen and helping it to happen. And we will help it to happen.
After the sit-down, the president tweeted, quote, "Great meetings and dinner tonight in Vietnam with Kim Jong Un of North Korea. Very good dialogue. Resuming tomorrow." Joining me now from Washington is Lisa Collins. She's a fellow with the Korea Chair at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. I also want to bring in Robert Carlin. He's a CBS News consultant and former intelligence analyst at the CIA and State Department. Lisa and Robert, welcome to both of you. Thanks so much for being with us. Lisa, let me start with you. Should North Korea's economic potential, as the president said, play any role in these talks?
Well, I think North Korea certainly has the potential to open up its economy after denuclearization happens, but the U.S. is really looking for North Korea to put forward some concrete evidence that it is going to dismantle its nuclear weapons program eventually, and that's what the U.S. working-level officials are working very hard to get in a joint statement on the ground in Hanoi today.
And Robert, how should the U.S. approach these negotiations, this second summit, compared with last year's summit?
Last year's summit was intended to frame the problem, to agree on some principles and some common themes. It did that. And so in the natural progression of things, this summit, this round of negotiations, will begin to get more specific in terms of the choreography and the route that we're going to take over a long period of time to reach the end point for each side.
So this will be a baby step, as it were. Lisa, what, if any, substantive steps should the U.S. demand North Korea take toward denuclearization out of this summit?
I think first and foremost, the United States will probably ask that there be international inspectors allowed to enter the country to look at certain sites like the Yongbyon nuclear facility. I think they should also request the checking of North Korea's uranium enrichment and plutonium production facilities. I think that is one thing that would be new from this summit, if it were achieved, would be the verification of uranium enrichment programs. And I think the U.S. would also be looking for ballistic missile production facilities that they could also be that could be verified on the ground inside the country.
And is North Korea, Lisa, likely to accept any of those steps?
It's hard to say at this point. I think there are some minor concessions that North Korea may be willing to agree to, and that would be, of course, allowing some inspectors into Yongbyon. There has been some reports coming out of Hanoi that this is something that is on the table between the two sides. That if that did happen, it would be a hopeful first step, but it would depend on how much of Yongbyon, the entire facility is very large, how much of that entire location the North Koreans would open up to inspectors and what they would allow to be checked once there.
And Robert, Kim Jong Un is expected to ask the U.S. to withdraw troops from South Korea. Is there any situation in which the U.S. would do that?
I don't think Kim Jong Un is going to ask such a thing. It's my sense over many, many years that the North Koreans don't want us to withdraw our troops. This goes against the common wisdom, I know. But we've had a lot of experience talking to the North Koreans about this, and it's my firm understanding is they don't want us to go, they want us to stay, and if we were to pull out, they wouldn't be the happiest campers.
Why do you believe that they want troops to stay, U.S. troops to stay in South Korea?
They want a balancer against Chinese influence. The idea that the Chinese and the North Koreans are blood brothers and view the world in the same way is a big mistake. The North Koreans have their own equities, their own sense of their history and their place in the world, and they don't want to be dominated by the Chinese. They don't want to have a hostile relationship with the Chinese, but they don't trust the Chinese. And it's for a long time they've thought that the Americans could play the role as the buffer to help protect them against Chinese aggression of different sorts. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So, Lisa, the president tweeted China, Russia, Japan, and South Korea will be very helpful. How do those countries factor into the relationship with North Korea as much as it stands with the U.S.?
Well, I think, of course, all of these countries are very important to securing a peaceful Korean peninsula. So I think they would be involved politically. I think they would also be involved ultimately economically. There were some reports a couple of weeks ago that Special Representative Steve Biegun was visiting some of the countries asking to see if there was some economic aid packages that we could put together to ultimately entice the North Koreans to give up some of their nuclear weapons and dismantle their programs. So they would be part of a larger economic package deal later on that could be implemented if there is verifiable denuclearization.
All right, Lisa Collins and Robert Carlin, thanks to both of you. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.